All right. I hear that buzz. I hear that buzz. And you know what? It's time for another episode of Buck What You Heard. And I am joined by my esteemed colleagues. I'm going to start out with my man Peter Blake, who is Mr. FM Sports Talk Radio himself. Pete, tell everybody how they can get a hold of you and what you're doing. By my esteemed colleagues. I'm going to start out with my man Peter Blake, who is FM Sports Talk Radio himself.
Well, I hear that echo there, but you can actually listen to the Sports Web on Saturday afternoons from 3 to 5 on WTAN 106.1 FM. It's a fan show. Bring your passion, bring your excitement, just don't bring any nonsense. Of course, Rick Brown, Mr. Buzz himself, on with us mostly every Saturday. And, of course, we also have Roy Cummings now, former Tampa Tribune writer, also being our baseball correspondent. So a lot of big things happening for the Sports Web. Again, it's a fan show. Bring your passion, bring your excitement, just don't bring any nonsense. It's the evolution of sports radio in the Tampa Bay area.
And I love it. And I'll also joined tonight by sports writer for today's Pigskin. You got to check him out. Great articles, and I think that, hey, they need to get put on the map. Check him out. Rick Brown, thank you for joining me. We'll definitely be leaning on you today because you have been at camp, and you're going to be able to give us some answers. So tell everybody how they can get a hold of you.
First of all, thanks for having me. What's up, Pete? What's up, my man Spider? And all, yes. Inside joke, folks. We'll tell you all about the buzz one day. But you can definitely find me on Twitter at RickBrown91. Also, you can find me at todayspigskin.com under the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We got an all-star lineup, guys. I'm serious. We probably have, if not the best, but we're going to have one of the best coverage of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year. With myself, who's been covering the Bucs going into year number 9, the before mentioned Roy Cummings, who's working with us as well. He's been covering the Bucs for at least 15 years. I know it's almost close to 20. And now I heard that Greg Allman has a podcast that's running as well. So, I mean, we have whatever you need, whatever you want. Today's Pigskin, if you're a Buccaneers fan, follow us because we're going to give you not only the stuff that you need, but we're going to try to give you the stuff that you didn't think about. So that's what I try to bring anyway.
Yeah, Greg Allman, real nice guy. I've been following him on Twitter the past couple of seasons. Class act. I really like him.
Great guy. Greg is cool. And he comes up with these numbers. I mean, he's like a machine sometimes. I'm just like, where do you find this stuff, Greg? Jeez. I mean, but he keeps everyone on their toes in there, and he makes all of us better to give you guys the best Buck coverage, the best NFL coverage, because we want the Bucks to be covered like those knuckleheads cover those other teams in the NFL.
There you go. And, guys, I want to preface the show by saying that this is just the first not even a full week of practice, of camp. And anything that you're hearing about on the news can change within a few seconds, within the time it takes to snap the ball. So, you may see positions being mentioned right now, but at least give it a chance till at least we get into the regular season or towards the end of preseason to see where certain players are going to be positioned at. These are some battles, and a lot of spots are up for grabs. So you know what? Yeah, you may hear something today. Like we've heard different stories over the past couple of days about certain players, and we'll get into that during the show. But things can change. So just keep that in mind. We want this team competitive. I want to see this team win games that they normally wouldn't win. And we want the best players on the field. So if you hear somebody saying something about a certain player now, just give it time and let's see if that does come to fruition. And on that, while we're on that subject, Pete, I'm going to start with you, and then we'll work over to Rick. Adam Humphries. the announcement or the comment that Dirk Cutter made that that's your number 3 guy. What are your thoughts on that? I'll give my thoughts last, but I'd like to get your insight on this. I know we texted a little bit about it yesterday, but I'd like to get your thoughts on it.
No, it makes sense. I mean, from this team's aspect, what they're looking at is the fact that he's the most consistent. Everything that he's thrown, he catches. He may not be as athletically gifted as Kenny Bell, but the thing is with this team, necessarily they like players that are consistent, and that's why you have a player like Adam Humphries. You never hear about him slacking. You never hear about him dropping passes. He runs good routes, and again, he may not be as athletically gifted as Kenny Bell, but he's getting the job done. And on top of that, it seems like he has some chemistry with Jameis Winston because Winston last year called him a gamer. So, that's coming out of the franchise's quarterback's mouth. Then you definitely have to put some stock into it.
All right. And Rick, what are your thoughts?
I was real surprised that at first when Dirk Cutter announced that Kenny Bell would not be the third guy. I really was surprised, but seriously, once I thought about it, and Spider, you said a lot there. That Adam Humphries is consistent. Adam Humphries does have a connection with Jameis Winston going back to last year. I mean, his first pass in his NFL career that was intercepted was a bad route by Adam Humphries.
Right.
And how they overcame that, and now look where he is. Consistent, works hard. But I think Dirk did it for another reason as well. I think he wanted to light a fire under the rest of the guys.
Great point.
And say, look, it's not over yet, but this is the bar. And you're going to have to be as consistent or even more. I don't care if you're faster. I don't care if you're more athletic. If you don't catch the ball, if you don't run the correct routes, if you don't bust your tail every daggone play, then you will not see the field, and not ahead of number 11 anyway. And so even today in camp, I saw those extra guys had some extra buzz, and no pun intended, but they had extra juice. They were diving for passes. They were running routes hard and working. Kenny Bell, Russell Shepard, who's had a good few days of camp. Evan Spencer, he dropped his first pass, but came back and made plays throughout the day. And haven't even mentioned Bernard Reedy or Freddie Martino, who also showed some flashes today. And so I think that was Dirk's way of saying, okay, you want to be inconsistent? Fine. Adam, you're my number 3 until otherwise. And I think this is going to, like I said, set the bar for the preseason games as well as for throughout the season. Because I think that 3, 4, 5, 6 spots, I think they're going to fluctuate throughout the season, guys, unless Adam or whoever comes in and just puts his mark on it, puts his own stamp on it.
Yeah, you know what? You stole my thunder a little bit there, Rick. But just my personal thoughts on that was that I felt like that's what they needed to do. They needed to set that bar. This is where we are. If you want this position, you got to come and take it. And you're not going to walk into camp and think you're just going to be handed anything. Anything is up for grabs right now because this organization wants to win, and they're trying to put themselves in a position to win. Now, along with that, you have that familiarity that you talked about from last season with the injuries. You had Hump, who was consistent, like you talked about. And I think that Dirk Cutter has somewhat of a comfort zone with Humphries as well. So, it makes sense, but I believe that, like Peter talked about being physically gifted, if if Kenny Bell can get it all on track, I think that he can take that number 3 position. But there's a lot of practice to be had, a lot of games that are coming up preseason. So we don't know what this team is really going to look like until we get into the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, next week I think is going to tell you a story because they're starting out versus Philadelphia. Just 1 week away, guys. It's unbelievable. Our first preseason game. And we're going to really see what Kenny Bell can do because we've heard all the stuff about him, how he's a great practice player, how he's athletically gifted, but we really haven't seen it in game action. Now, if we can see it in game action, do I think that depth chart may change? Absolutely. I think Rick is absolutely right. Mr. Buzz is right on the money here. It could be actually a way to put some fire under a guy like a Kenny Bell or a Russell Shepard to get the most out of those players.
And I wrote this article in today's Pigskin on Monday and it wasn't just for Bucs fans, but it could have been for NFL fans. I said the first few days of camp, don't get overly excited about what you hear. Right. Because the guys were just in shorts, they were just going around, and there's different phases to training camp. It's the early part of training camp, you want to get yourself noticed. You want to have those flash plays. You want to dive for passes. You want to give that extra effort. You want to make interceptions. You want to knock down passes. You want to be seen by your coaches so you can get on this depth chart. That you can move up on the depth chart. Or as they say right now, the rep chart, so you can get more reps. Once you get into preseason games, then you have to continue. You have to make plays in preseason to show them that you can do it at that level. And the earlier you do that, then they can move you up in the preseason games to, say, if you're third on the depth chart, you might not be facing the number ones, where they may move you to the second slot. To give you some second-team reps, or even some first-team reps to go against an opponent's number 1 defense just to see what you can do. And that gives them a better indication once the season starts, hey, can I count on this guy to do what I want him to do? And that's how they slot you. So there's different phases. The early part, that's why I said don't get too excited because they're just trying to find their ways right now. They're trying to, hey, coach, especially the undrafted and the late round draft picks. Hey, coach, I'm here. Don't forget about me. and then, but once you get that chance, you can't slack off because it's an ever-going evaluation. And it's in practice, it's in preseason games, all of that, and in the classrooms as well.
Yeah,
it all matters.
And you have him using the 50-30-20, where you have your main guys getting 50% of the reps, then the backups get the 30, and then the reserves get the 20. So everybody's getting a chance to be seen a little bit. And like you said, you gotta make the most of those chances.
And look, all these guys got to be ready to go because what do we know here, guys? We know that these receivers sometimes get hurt. Mike Evans the last couple of years, Vincent Jackson. So knock on wood, hopefully we don't have any injuries to these wide receivers. But let's say a Vincent Jackson or a Mike Evans go out with an injury. Kenny Bell's got to be ready. Adam Humphries has got to be ready. Shepard's got to be ready. They have to be ready to stand in, next man up, to come in and be productive for this offense. Because if any of those players slack, then Jameis Winston's going to be in some trouble.
And you saw that a little bit last year. Once Vince went down, and Murph went down, and the kids, they weren't ready.
Right.
They weren't ready, and you saw that they double teamed Mike, and he struggled late in the season. So you're absolutely right. Those kids have to be ready this year, and I think these preseason games will show it. If not, I wouldn't be surprised if you hear a, "Hey, Roddy, hey, how you doing? You ready?" or whoever,
Devin Hester.
Devin Hester. Hey, Devin. Hey, you ready to return some kicks and catch some passes? All right, come on down.
And the plus on the plus side of the injuries that we saw last year, they gave a lot of players a chance to really show what they can do. And another guy that was in the news today, Another thing that Dirk Cutter was talking about, Cameron Brate. And Cameron Brate, being familiar with Jameis Winston, and they had somewhat of a chemistry because of the injury to Austin Seferian-Jenkins. Once again, just like Rick Brown was talking about, I think that he's trying to light a fire, or better yet, I like the way you put that, set that bar. If you want to start, this is where you got to get to. You got to get above this, actually, if you want to get some playing time. So these guys are playing for positions, and then you've got Danny Vitale, another guy with really nice hands. And from everything that I've read and heard about, this guy has turned some heads at the practices. So he's another guy that could be waiting in the wings to make a move on this team.
With Danny, I think his main role, he's going to have to beat out Stalker for that H-back role. And right now, I don't know. He has great hands. No doubt about it. He made one catch and rolled down the sidelines a couple of days ago. That was brilliant. It was pretty. It really was. But haven't seen him seal this guy so a running back can get through yet. Haven't seen him yet do that on a consistent basis. So his role is going to be, hey, first, you got to block for 22 or 34 or whoever's in the backfield. You do that first, and then we can use your ability to roll out and catch those passes, because his hands he does have hands, no doubt about that. But his number one role, I think, will be that blocking back.
And I think the key, again, is Austin Seferian-Jenkins. I mean, what is he going to do here? He hasn't been productive for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He hasn't been able to stay healthy. Again, he's a guy that has all this athletic ability, but he's yet to show it on the field and put it all together. Cameron Brate may not be as athletic, but he's consistent. He catches the balls that are thrown to him by Winston. It seems like they're developing a rapport together because Brate is staying after practice and catching passes. So the more Brate goes and has this chemistry with Jameis Winston, the worse off it's for Austin Seferian-Jenkins, who, by the way, the other day looks like he's dropping passes when he's wide open. I mean, that just can't happen. As talented as he is, he's got to put it together, and if he doesn't, then Dirk Cutter is going to have no hesitation to start Cameron Brate, and I'm all for this because, look, players that are consistent and are going to catch passes and be productive on this team need to stay with this team. The players that are not doing it, they need to be on the bench. They need to learn. They need to have a fire set on their ass so they can go out there and be productive. And if they're not going to be productive, then they're not a part of this team's plans in the future. And I hate to say that because I'm an Austin Seferian-Jenkins fan, but, man, you got to show me something eventually. And if you don't, then maybe this is not the place for you. I'm sorry to say it, guys.
Yeah, and you know what? The thing is, Austin Seferian-Jenkins isn't married to Dirk Cutter. Dirk Cutter wouldn't have no problems in starting somebody else over him. It's not his project. He wasn't around during that draft process. So Austin Seferian-Jenkins has to get out there and prove what he can do. Enough talk about it. And you heard him talk about he's going to have his opportunities. Well, you know what? Shut up and make the most of those opportunities. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it in a soundbite. I want to see it on the field.
Yeah, and he may be a horrible practice player and may show it out in the field. Again, you got to show it all the time for this team. You got to put it out there, and if you don't, then again, you got to think you have to get second thoughts here because you look at this tight end battle. You still have Brandon Myers. You still have Luke Stalker, the aforementioned Danny Vitale, who's been impressive. So we'll see what happens here. But right now, Cameron Brate looks like he's the starting tight end. And guys, I don't have a problem with it because he was productive last year in the absence of Austin Seferian-Jenkins. And correct me if I'm wrong, I feel bad about saying this, but Austin Seferian-Jenkins hasn't even played half of his snaps with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So something's got to change here, and maybe this is the thing that changes. Maybe it gets him to play better, maybe not.
And it would not surprise me next Thursday if 84 is in the starting lineup. Wouldn't surprise me at all. But it's still early, and I, like you, Pete, I'm an ASJ fan. I think I think the kid gets a bad rep sometimes, and I think he's misunderstood. He's made some stupid mistakes, no doubt, some young mistakes,
Sure.
but I think some of it's been overblown. So now his main thing is being healthy. I think he's healthy now. Now he has to do it on the field. Has he been as consistent? No. And Dirk has let him know from OTAs, hey, we're not putting up with it. So either you bring it or you're going to be on the sidelines. I have no problems with coaches who do that.
Yeah, and what we saw from him last season, he's got the tools to do it. He's physical, big target, and I think that, if he can get out there and show it, I mean, I think, 338 yards in receiving last season, that's not too bad for the amount of games that he played in. And I just feel like, had he been healthy, he could have contributed more. Now his feet are to the fire. He has to do something.
And remember, his first 2 games, what did he have? 9 catches, I think, his first 2 games before he injured that shoulder. So him and Jameis were getting a rapport before his injury. Now he has to work harder to get it back.
While we're on the subject of that injury, we never heard from Lovie Smith how severe that shoulder injury was. Was it season ending, or how really bad was it? Because I know he was trying to get back and they held him out and he tried to come back. I mean, how bad was it, just to give the folks out here that are listening an idea of what he was going through at last season?
Well, in order to be a tight end and line up, unless you're going to line up as a wide receiver, you're lining up on the line, okay, in a 3-point stance. Austin had trouble. He had a shoulder injury, so he had trouble with the push. He had no strength to get his shoulders up to make a football move. He couldn't push another guy and make a block. People talk about how bad his blocking is. Well, if he would have been out there, it would have been much worse because he couldn't have blocked me. His shoulders were that weak because of the injury. So it took time for that to heal and for him to get 100%. And you don't want your tight end going out there. I don't know if he ever got 100%, but you don't want him even at 80%, especially the way they had him set up on the line before they split him out. It's not a good situation for your running backs or your quarterback or anyone that he has to block because he couldn't do it efficiently. And as well as he couldn't get up. I mean, he couldn't, when passes, and you know how Jameis likes to float ball, how his passes kind of go up in the air.
Did that today.
It's kind of hard when that shoulder is not functioning properly to do it as consistently and as well as a receiver needs to.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was going with this. These players are men, they're human beings. I know we look at them as superstars or whatever, but when you have that kind of injury, I separated my shoulder once, and I thought I was going to die, and that just gave me so much respect for somebody like who is our defensive tackle?
Gerald McCoy.
Gerald McCoy. Sorry, drew a blank. But Gerald McCoy, what Gerald McCoy went through,
okay, Sean.
I have so much respect.
Yeah, Sean. What's up there, Sean? What are you doing? Sean? Yeah, Sean. That's all right. I got a question really quick though before you go into this Gerald McCoy thing. Besides the drop passes and Austin Seferian-Jenkins, how does he look? Does he look explosive? Does he look like he's healthy again? Does he look good out of his breaks, or does he look a little bit slow?
He looks a little tentative.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's that he's thinking too much. Well, no, that's what I think it is. And I haven't had a chance to talk to him yet. Every time I go to talk to him, he dips, and I can't get to him before.
Wow.
But this week, I am talking to ASJ, and just to see where his mind is, because I mean, he's with the fans and he's taking pictures and he's working on his PR in that aspect, and that's all well and good. I want to see how he feels mentally on the field, and it might not be for discussion publicly, but me and him have a good relationship, so I just want to know, just for myself, because he doesn't look comfortable yet.
Mm-hmm.
And, I just want to go on record saying that I'm not anti-Austin Seferian-Jenkins. Just looking at his physical tools, I would love to see him as that breakout player, that player that people have compared to Tony Gonzalez. I want to see that. I would love to have a player like that on this Bucs team.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I seen him a couple of years ago at the night practice. Sean, the sports dom, was with me, and we just saw him, and we just thought he was a man beast. I mean, the guy is huge. He runs these good routes. But when the ball's thrown to him, there are some occasions where he drops it, and it's like, man, but he's got so much potential, and it's like you can't give up on this kid, but at a certain point, you got to draw the line, and you got to say, oh, is he going to produce? Is he going to put it all together? Or, is he not going to do it? There's so much potential there. So at this point, you have to give him every opportunity, and hopefully he's not tentative in these preseason games. Hopefully he can improve and help this Buccaneer team and contribute like the Buccaneers think he's going to contribute.
I think it's going to be, these games are going to be big for him.
Yeah,
I really do.
Absolutely. This guy makes the most of his opportunities, and he opens the coach's eyes, and he gets back in his good graces to where he can help us win some games, or at least put us in a position to win some games. Now, we were talking about the offensive side of the ball. I know we've been talking about that a little bit. I want to talk about
All right, I guess we've had some technical difficulties here with Gene, so I think I'm going to respond to what he was saying. Are you there, Gene?
You got me? Am I back up? Am I back up?
Yeah, you're back up. Okay, you're good to go.
I was going to ask, how's he?
What he wanted to ask is how has Noah Spence looked at training camp?
Oh, wow. Hey, you're good at that, man. I like the way you do that.
Thank you.
Noah has shown flashes. And I've always said this. I think I said this during OTAs as well. He has a burst that's just incredible. That's very good. And they've been using him sometimes on nickel downs, where they throw in the nickel and use him as a pass rusher. They either move Robert Ayers inside, and they have Gerald, Robert, Jackie Smith, and Noah all rushing at the same time.
That sounds like an old New York Giants package where they're rushing everybody from inside and outside. Defensive ends doesn't matter what position you're going to play.
But like I said, that's just one of the packages. So I think he's still trying to find his way. If what I've noticed is if the offensive lineman is able to get to him, then he's in trouble. and he hasn't been able to really shake that yet. But it's still early, and he's still learning, and it's fun to watch him go.
Speaking of fun,
really fun. So excuse me. What's been really fun though is watching Mike Smith dial up these blitzes. Oh my goodness!
Yes, I've heard about this.
He's bringing blitzes. He's bringing safety blitzes. He's bringing slot corner blitzes. He's bringing straight corner blitzes. He's bringing linebacker blitzes. He's bringing the kitchen sink on downs. I've been like, holy smoke, what is going on? One play you see Levante come in and breeze by Jameis. The next play you see Bradley McDougall come through and breeze by. You're like, whoa, where he come from?
Right.
it's fun to watch. And if you're a defensive guy and you've been waiting to see this defense unleashed, I think just seeing little bits and pieces in camp, this could be a fun year. This could be a fun year for this defense.
It sounds like it's going to be exciting, And Ayers is another player I was going to ask you about. How is he looking, and is he helping Noah Spence along in this process?
He's helping all of them. I mean, just solid veteran, and every play. And I think I don't know if it was Dirk or someone said this but it seems like every play is like it's the beginning of the Super Bowl because he's coming, he's bringing it, and I love it because that just makes the offensive line better, and he's showing the other guys that hey, this is what you do, this is how you go, you don't half step, not here, and that's what he's bringing, that professionalism, that experience, and it's a good thing. One other thing that I saw today that I loved, it was during a water break, and Clinton McDonald called the entire defense to him, and I know we were talking last week, Pete, about Jameis calling out Gerald McCoy and all. Bump that. No. Clint McDonald called them all. And he wasn't given, you couldn't hear him, so he wasn't that loud, but he had everyone's attention. Everyone's attention. And he was just walking. They had him a long pathway. And he was kind of walking back and forth, talking to people, telling people, hey, this is telling the team, the defensive side, whatever he told them was just probably, hey, it's time to go to work. Let's stop this BS around. I loved it. I just said, he doesn't speak too often, but when he does, everyone listens, and that's respect.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a guy that was really missing on this defense last season with his injury. I felt like he could have been that spark. He could have definitely helped to keep that level of play up had he been available. But you can really see what a big difference he makes.
Yeah, and the defensive players have to respect him, guys, because Clinton McDonald has a Super Bowl ring with the Seattle Seahawks, and that's why he was brought over here in the first place, to add respectability to that defensive line. And when he's healthy, he's clearly one of the leaders on this defense. But getting back to Robert Ayers, he's an underrated signing, but this guy had, 9.5 sacks last year. He went through some injury problems. He was a first-round pick of the Denver Broncos in that 3-4 defense. Really never fit in Denver, and it took him a couple years to go to the New York Giants and really find his niche, if you will, and now it seems like he's taken off. He's been a beast, everything I can hear, and everything you say, Rick, about him being on this defensive line and showing Noah Spence and showing William Golston is only going to help this defensive line out in the long run. They haven't had these type of guys, and Robert Ayers is a perfect example of what a glue guy is for a team.
Agree. Totally agree with everything you just said there. And to top it off, he can play.
Yeah, he can play. I mean, and that's the thing. They got him for relatively cheap compared to some of the defensive ends that were in free agency. And you look at his numbers, I think if he can stay healthy, and again, knock on wood, he's had some shoulder problems. And that shoulder, look, that's nothing to mess around with. Trust me. I lift weights, and hurting your shoulder, it feels like it's going to explode when you try to pick up another weight or when you try to get back, because you feel like you tore your rotator cuff. You may have not, but if you stretch that son of a gun, and you go back into the gym and try to lift heavy weights, it feels like it's going to explode, especially when you get older. But at the end of the day, if this defensive line can stay healthy, and I think they'll be able to, and Robert Ayers is a part of it with Noah Spence and William Golston, you have to be excited about the prospect of this team getting over 30 sacks, maybe having 40 to 50 sacks. With all the blitzing that you're talking about, it's going to be a culture shock to this fan base after 2 years of watching the Tampa 2, watching everybody play zone and barely seeing any blitzes at all, to seeing all these blitzes before. I hate to say this, Gene, because I know you didn't like him as a coach, but Greg Schiano, he liked the blitz a lot. This guy's going to blitz all the time, but I think it's going to work out because you're going to have the athleticism with the linebackers, and you're going to have a defensive line that has a lot more depth. They're going to get to the quarterback any way possible. I'm excited about the prospect of this defense and the new look of it.
Oh, absolutely. And just the speed. And everybody that I've talked to has used the word flying to the ball, flying around. This team is faster than it's like a total opposite of what you saw last season. Now, I will say we won't be able to really know what we're going to get until game 1. But what you're seeing right now in camp it's a great thing to see, and it gets the fans excited, and they should be excited. And, Michael Pless, who's been, going back and forth here on YouTube, he mentioned that, in his opinion, that the defensive line was the best group so far in camp. Would you say that's a fair assessment? Or at least the most consistent?
See, this is what I like about Rick Brown, because he doesn't sugarcoat it. Yeah.
Let me think about this here.
Leave the chaser at home.
Straight no chaser. Let me see. Linebackers.
Yeah, Sean's not here tonight, so you don't.
No. Linebackers, cornerbacks, safeties. No. Offensive line. Running backs. Wow. I'm gonna tell you that's interesting. Because I think the linebackers have been very consistent.
Whoa!
From Quan to Smith to Darryl Smith and Levante had the best day at camp today. He got burnt on one. He got burnt on one reception he shouldn't have been checking Charles Sims out of the backfield. Not on the go route. That was just bad. That was bad for him. But other than that, I mean, he was all over today. A couple of other linebackers. What is Kinsey? 40. Casanova McKenzie. He showed up, although he's been out a couple of days, the last couple of days. And there's another one.
Casanova McKenzie? He sounds like a...
he sounds like a player, doesn't he? Yeah. And Luke Rhodes in the middle. I mean, it's second-team middle linebacker. He's played well in camp.
Brian Gonzalez, one of the listeners, he's saying that there was 2 picks. Levante ended up with 2 picks today?
He got one. I think Bradley got one.
Yeah, he had a tip. He had a tip on a pass, I heard. Levante David had a tip on a pass that went to McDougal, and then I don't know about the other interception, but if that's true, I mean, that's great for Levante David, because I think the last couple of years...
Another name that was mentioned was Devontae Bond.
And I didn't mention him. He's also had flashes during camp. That linebacker core has played well the first 5 days of training camp. The defensive line has played well now. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not taking any away from what the guy said, because he's absolutely correct. They have been solid. I think the linebacker crew has been solid as well, though. And on the offensive line, there's one guy who's just been, and this will make both of you guys smile, that he seems like he's back. The big boy,
DeMar Dotson. Yeah.
He's been the most consistent offensive lineman the Bucs have had during training camp. He's back to. He told me he's not quite back, but his play during camp reminds you when he was that number 1 or number 2 right tackle in the NFL. He's getting back to that DeMar Dotson, and it's good to see. That right side of the line should be good for the Buccaneers.
Yeah, Marpet coming back and having DeMar Dotson fully healthy is definitely going to help that line out, because there were times last year, although Godslow Chairless did a pretty fair job, there were times last year when other teams blitzed on that right side and they got to Winston a lot. So that would be nice to have. With the left side there, because I don't want to steal your thunder here, Gene, but the left side with Sweezy out, how has Panfil looked and how has Donovan Smith looked?
Panfield has looked good, guys. If Sweezy cannot come back, I think he will be back. And that's just a guess, but I think he'll be back before the season. But if he's not, then Kevin will be ready. He's been solid over there. He's been more than holding his own over there. Again, though, until we see him in games, we're not going to know if this is a GG. I won't say his name. Situation. I don't say his name. I liked him as a person, but I won't say his name.
Will not be mentioned.
But I do want to see him in a preseason game, though. I do want to see him. I want to see him get a couple of reps. I want to see him. I want to see him.
And you know what? I'm going to go out on a limb. And you could go back to some of my previous podcasts, and Peter will speak to this. I have said that Panfield needs more reps. He should have been getting more reps. And it's kind of, I understand this is his time and he's making the most of it. But I felt like he should have been at least given a chance to get in there and show what he could do and help put this team in a position to win.
Dirk said that, I don't know if he said it today or yesterday, but he said when they brought in Sweezy, Kevin was like, yo, what the hell?
That's what I don't get, because Panfield did a great job last year filling in for Mankins, and I'm like, look, you get Sweezy, he's physical, but you look at him sometimes on tape, he misses some pass blocks, so that would scare you a little bit on that left side. You hope that he can play as well as Panfield played last year, but I didn't understand the big move. I thought Panfield played pretty well last year. He's a raw player, but he's very athletic. He's very good when they pull. He held his own last year. I think he did a hell of a job, but I didn't understand the upgrade there.
I think they just wanted a veteran there. They just didn't want to throw. They didn't want to have two relatively young players on that left side. That's what I believe.
Good point. Right. That's a good point.
Although they may end up with it, I don't think that's the ideal situation. That's not how they drew it up.
And, like we were talking about early on before the show started, Bennock is a rookie. I guess he has an ankle injury, and I guess it's pretty serious.
Yeah, he was in a soft cast today, or a cast today, and on crutches. He was in a boot yesterday. But Dirk said that he's going to be out a while, so that makes me think that he might not be ready. The fourth preseason game, just listening to Dirk is very cautious when it comes to injury telling, like his predecessor, but not as bad as his predecessor, but he still doesn't divulge too much information about injuries. But he said this is going to be a while, so I think he could miss the rest of the preseason.
Talk about that a little bit, Rick. What's the difference between talking with Dirk Cutter every day and talking with Lovie Smith over the years? Go ahead and explain the differences between both of those coaches to the fans out there watching this podcast.
I'm still learning Dirk, even though I had him as offensive coordinator last year, and as offensive coordinator he wasn't a loose cannon, but he said what was on his mind. He did not hold back. Right. This year he's holding back a little bit more, but he is still more straightforward. And Lovie was more careful with his words, and he didn't want to put any information out. because he knows that everyone reads, everything is on the internet now from video and all. So he was cautious in saying anything. And the joke was, if you said, Coach, it looks like the sky's going to be blue today, would that be a good practice? Oh, did you ask the other teams would the sky be blue? Why are you asking me these questions like this? I mean, Lovey was secretive almost to a fault, and it really, and you wonder why a lot of times. Like, really, Lovey? Come on, man. It's not that big a deal. But that was Coach Smith, and hey, good luck in Illinois. Good luck reporters. Good luck reporters in Illinois.
Yeah, good luck with Ohio State and facing Michigan every year too. That's going to be tough. Both of those offenses against that Tampa 2 defense. I just don't see it working out, Rick, at all.
And when you talk about that, I kind of a good segue here. Vernon Hargreaves. Vernon Hargreaves was on the first team today, playing with the first team. He's been playing some nickel. How is that secondary? I know we kind of talked about the line, the defensive line. We talked about the linebackers. We haven't really touched on the secondary too much, which was kind of a Achilles heel, so to speak, last season. And has that changed, or what are you seeing?
I see a more Alteron Werner looks like he did when he was with Tennessee. He's breaking on the ball. He's making plays. I haven't seen him get burnt deep doing camp. I haven't. I'm not talking about 707s. I'm talking about 11 on 11s. I'm not talking about 101s. I'm talking strictly 11 on 11s.
And the one thing I saw about, I don't mean to cut you off. The one thing I saw with him in game film was he would think, and then he would do it. And yeah. I'm wondering, are you seeing the same thing? Is he like just fluently going into his protection, into his going up against the receiver, or is it more I'm thinking about it and doing it?
No, he looks more comfortable out there. He looks like he's an all-pro cornerback. And Brent Grimes on the other side has played extremely well as well. It's going to be fun to see Brent just because Brent has gotten beat a couple of times, but he's also had a couple of picks as well. So yes, he does, and you love it, and so And so back to Vernon. Vernon got some first-team reps today at nickel, and they're feeding him nickel as well as outside corner because he's not going to take Alteron's spot. It's not going to happen. But he'll be ready to. They want him to be ready to come in if need be. But, and I'm saying this, guys, he has to beat out Jude because Jude. Aji
Adebayo.
Barima. But no, Jude has played well. Jude he's played well during camp. And so it would not surprise me if he's not the starting nickel. We're going to have to see it in the games. But I know that first preseason game, I expect to see 38 when they go to nickel right away just because of what he's done so far. So and this is good for Vernon.
Yeah.
And what about Banks? That's the guy that has been missing from the news. I haven't heard anything about him. I saw him on a milk carton. I'm looking for him right now. I haven't heard anything about him.
Jonathan is working hard, but he's in a position now that he's the second team corner. He's the second team behind Brent Grimes. So, and unless Brent goes down, there's going to be nothing. There's no way he's going to take his spot. And like I said, Alteron is
This is a
playing
contract
out of
year
his
for
mind
him,
right
too,
now.
isn't it?
So say that again.
This is a contract year for him, isn't it? For
I
Banks.
do 1, 2. Was he last year? 1, 2, 3. Yes,
I believe this is his
yes.
contract year for
This is
him.
yeah. It is. So he's going to. I still believe in him. I think he has the ability. Um, but how much time he gets, I don't know. I don't know right now, just because of what's in front of him.
Yeah, and I think it also depends on if they go to a nickel defense, which a lot of defenses go to because there are offenses that go to 3, 4, 5 wide receiver looks at any different occasion. You're going to see some of these cornerbacks, and again, they're going to have to come up and play. So to think that it's not important to see who your starting nickel corner is, think again. So Hargraves and Jude in the preseason, everything's going to get worked out, but I've heard nothing but good reviews about Jude playing in camp, and I've heard nothing but good reviews about Vernon Hargraves. So it's going to be interesting, and when toe hits leather next Thursday night, we're going to see. We're going to see in these preseason games. You're going to need to watch.
Oh, absolutely. And, Jude, one thing I think I told you about this, Peter. He came here to Arizona to shut down you and worked on technique. He worked on footwork. And it really, you can see it right now. I mean, if you guys are talking about how good he's looking right now, that's paying off where he knew that there were things he had to work on. And he went into the offseason and came down here, worked on mechanics and footwork. I mean, that speaks volumes about what he's trying to do.
And don't forget, you added Josh Robinson. Right. Well, you added Josh Robinson, too. So, I mean, you're stacked.
I know, right? You're right, and it's easy for me to forget him because when he was first brought in, I was thinking that he was brought in to be the nickel back, but now he's second team corner with JB, and he's battling back there, So how many corners are they going to keep? That's going to be interesting to see. Do they keep 6? Do they keep 5?
Yeah, well, the one thing is, I don't think you're going to see that cornerback carousel you saw last season. You're going to see some guys there, and they're going to be able to play, and you're not going to have to wonder who's playing cornerback next week.
Listen, who's that corner today?
Jude, Albert, and you got Sterling Moore, and you got Tim. Yeah. There's one thing for sure, you won't see Tim Jennings. That's good.
Thank God.
Or Mike Jenkins, unless you're in Arizona.
Oh, yeah, he actually got injured a couple of days ago.
Why?
Hold on.
By sneezing?
Tim Jenkins had one good game. That Saints game, he shut down Brandon Cooks.
Yes, he did. And after
he shut down Cooks. So give him his props for that one game. And thank you very much. He was gone 2 games later. But
Mike Jenkins was garbage the whole year. I just couldn't figure it out.
God.
Who was worse? Rod Toast Jones, because every Bucs fan would know who Rod Toast Jones is, or Mike Jenkins. Who was worse?
Well, Mike Jenkins he had to be the luckiest cornerback in the world because he would get beat so often. And the receiver would drop the ball, and then you see Mike Jenkins.
He's celebrating.
Incomplete. Like, what the hell?
He breathed on the ball.
Gosh, that was just so.
Was that against
ridiculous.
The Colts that he did that, where the guy
did it more than that?
He dropped the ball and Jenkins over there celebrating like he broke up the pass.
Unbelievable.
5 minutes later, and he's still celebrating like he did something.
He's like the water boy. He's looking for somebody to celebrate with. Just watching that movie, guys.
That was crazy.
One more thing I want to is I know it's getting late here for you guys. Our kicker, Arguello. I know we touched on him a little bit. What are you seeing? What are you because that's just a subject that it keeps getting brought up to me I'm telling people just wait till the regular season and we'll see if, give it a couple of years and we'll see, who's talking about this later on. But I still think it was a good move. I justify the move. We needed a guy. I think he's, best kicker in NCAA history. Hey, I'm all for it. I'm hoping that this guy is successful.
He missed a kick a couple of days ago. I think it was Saturday, and it was about 40 yards or something like that. Hit the left upright, and everybody was like, "Ooh," Then he came back and nailed his last three. He missed one today from about 54 yards. I mean, he yanked it. I mean, he yanked this ball. I mean, it was like me on a golf course pulling out the driver. It was like 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I mean, he pulled it so wide it wasn't even funny. And I was in the top stands. Usually I have to look down, lean down to see if the kick goes through. No, you saw this one was wide. I didn't even have to lean to see this one. That was a 54-yarder. He came back on his next kick and drilled a 59-yarder.
Nice.
So
wow.
So that just tells me that he's working on some things. He's working on getting comfortable with his holder. He's working on different hash marks where he feels comfortable. And the way the 59-yarder, it was dead center. Now, it only got over by a couple yards, but it didn't look like he put any effort into the kick. So
that's what I'm excited about.
That was good, and you should be. It's going to be interesting to see. I don't know if he'll be perfect, but what kicker is. I was surprised that they let Connor go, but I understand the move. If this guy is as good as advertised, we're going to see, because once the toe hits the leather, I mean, hey,
and with the new,
we're going to see real quick.
And with the new rules for kickoffs, that's where I'm really looking at to see how he fits in with the new rules for kickoff, and if he is that weapon that we think he's going to be.
Well, he did it all the time at Florida State. Those mortar kicks that send it to the sidelines, right? To the sidelines, right at the 1, 2, 3 yard line. That forces the guy to run, but since he's at the corner, now he has less space to go, and that helps your kickoff coverage. So,
and hang time.
Yep. So it'd be very interesting to see if he can continue that. We'll see that real quickly.
Speaking of special teams, Rick, who have you seen that has stuck out with the kick returner position and the punt returner? Who's going to be the kick returner, punt returner?
We don't know yet. Because they haven't gone full bore on kick returns or punt returns. They've just had some guys back there catching it and working more so on the coverage instead of returns. They did do some returns. They have done some returns, but not. They've had Adam Humphries back there. They've had Kenny Bell. They even had rookie Ryan Smith back there as well, and he showed some quickness.
I had somebody talking about that during the draft, that would be possibly where Ryan Smith would end up as a rookie returning kicks.
It's possible if he makes a squad, but they don't like to have anyone on the team just doing one thing, and Ryan's not going to crack the top 4 safeties right now.
Wow.
So, no. Keith Tandy has that sucker on lock. So, it's not even close right now.
Wow.
So it wouldn't surprise me to see, but it's still early. I mean, Ryan may play his way onto the 53. That's why they're going to have the preseason games. That's why the preseason games is the next phase in what these players have to do. If they want to make the 53, not only practice, but you have to do it in the games.
Yeah.
Well, I know we got the Pro Football Hall of Fame this week, guys. Give me your thoughts about Tony Dungy, both of you, because I know you may have, but Tony Dungy, to me, the architect of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, turning them around from the doldrums. Go ahead and speak about Dungy and his impact on the Buccaneer organization and as a coach in the NFL.
He turned a franchise. He turned the Yucks. He took the Y off of Yucks and replaced it with the B to make them the Bucks. The Bucks that ran that had that 10-year stretch where they had the best defense one of the best defenses in the league.
Agreed.
Where he made the players accountable not only to the coaching staffs but to themselves. He brought he turned the franchise around. He gave them respectability. He made the people of Tampa feel good about themselves. The only thing he didn't do is win a Super Bowl or get to a Super Bowl as a member of the Bucks. But his efforts in turning this franchise around into the franchise that people want to see again, I think it can never be understated. I think he did so much for not only this team but the community and the way he is as a person. My hat is off to Coach Dungy.
Yes. You know, for me, I can remember back in the 80s and 90s when the Green Bay Packers fans would fill up the big sombrero and there would be fist fights. I'd be right in the middle of it, because these arrogant fans decided to come in and pack our stadium. And then you bring in Tony Dungy, and Tony Dungy brings winning to Tampa football. And it gives me chills just thinking about it, going all the way back to Doug Williams and when they faced the Rams to get a chance to go to the Super Bowl. And, that feeling, we didn't have that for a long time. And then you come in with Tony Dungy. What he was able to do for this team, what he was able to do for the fan base, and as you mentioned, the community, you can't deny it, because he put this team in a position to go where they finally got to, and you'll never be able to take that away from him. That was his greatest work. I mean, I know he won a Super Bowl with the Colts, but his greatest work was what he did for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, for the fan base, for the community. I remember when you couldn't get a ticket, and scalping tickets was ridiculous. They were asking exorbitant amounts of money to go watch the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play. And that right there, bringing winning to that team, bringing pride. And when you saw this jersey, people were proud, and that's what he meant to Tampa. And I'm hoping that eventually he'll be in that Ring of Honor, because he should be there. He deserves to be there.
And I absolutely agree with that. He should be in the Ring of Honor. The thing that I always think about is 96. They start out 0-6. It doesn't look very good. And then that team surges to go 6-10. But that very year when they go up to Green Bay and they play Brett Favre and the Packers, and they got absolutely destroyed at Tampa Stadium, they go in there and they hold the Packers to 13 points. It was 13-6. I knew back then there was something special. And then the very next year when they draft Warwick Dunn and they have Riedel Anthony and they go 5-0 and they go up to Green Bay again and they gave the Green Bay Packers a hell of a game, you knew that year we were looking at something special. We were experiencing a guy that knew what the hell he was doing. He had that defense on track, the accountability, not making mental mistakes, the things that right now are hurting this team. Tony Dungy preached, and I swear, if they would have got a touchdown in that NFC Championship game versus the St. Louis Rams, which, by the way, they held that team that scored 41 points a game to 5 points. They were winning 6-5. Absolutely. If they score a touchdown in that game, I believe they win that Super Bowl versus Tennessee, and I think to a certain point we never see the likes of John Gruden in Tampa Bay because Tony Dungy is probably still there and still winning a Super Bowl or two, because that defense, like Rick said, was so dominant and so underrated because their offense wasn't that great, because they didn't win as many Super Bowls, was so dominant. On any given Sunday, they would shut out teams. And I know you remember this. That 98 team, which wasn't great, but you remember who they beat that year that had only one loss. That's the Minnesota Vikings. They came down here, and we absolutely punched that team in the mouth. I don't think we were a playoff team that year, but Minnesota was a hell of a team. But I always remember with Tony Dungy interviewing him face-to-face. The guy was so great with the community. He lost his son, which was sad, but he was such a great family man, and it was so great for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as an organization. Exactly. It's got you all choked up, Rick Brown, because that time, being a Buccaneer fan, you had pride.
That's right. Well, guys, thank you so much for being on. I'm going to go down the line. I want to get your parting thoughts. What your thoughts are, the week coming up, what you got going on, just something. Just let the fans know how they can get with you. So, Pete, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, of course, you can listen to the most entertaining sports talk show in the Tampa Bay area, the only FM sports talk show from 3 to 5 on WTAN 106.1 FM. Rick Brown will be on there on Saturday talking Buccaneer football. We'll probably talk about the Rays trades. Who cares? Because right now it's football season and we're ready to go. And my parting shot is congratulations to Tony Dungy. Well deserved. You are not only a Hall of Famer as a coach, but as a man. And hopefully all of us can truly be like that as we live our days.
Thank you for that. Rick Brown?
Again, you can find me on Twitter at RickBrown91. That's RickBrown91. If you come at me, I'm going to come at you. Just remember that.
Sean knows that, doesn't he?
You can also you can read my stuff at todayspigskin.com, giving you Bucks coverage. If you want daily stuff, read the other guys. I want you to read the other guys, but read us too, because I think we have some stuff that they don't have. My parting shot is this. Thank God it's football season.
Thank you, God.
You cannot. There is nothing else you can say, to top that. For me, I want to say thank you to Tony Dungy for what he's done for the Tampa Bay area. It just can't be stated enough just what he's meant to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers organization. And, he still comes back and gives back to the community. And he's a good role model for everybody. You talk about him as a Hall of Famer, as a coach, but he's a Hall of Famer as a human being too. Just his compassion and what he's been able to do for people. And, losing a son and still having that compassion it's just amazing what a great person he is. I'm going to be emotional about him getting inducted into the Hall of Fame because, to me, he deserves it. He's a man that really deserves it. Yeah. So, everybody, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And, check us out. You can check me out on as Super Heavyweight on Twitter. You follow me, I'll follow you back. Everybody that left a comment, thank you for leaving comments. Brian Gonzalez, Michael Pless, thank you for checking the show out all the way. I appreciate it. Any fans that I haven't mentioned, thank you. And that's it for me. And, guys, thanks a lot. Have a good night.